This program deals with themes of an adult nature and is intended for a mature audience.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on the KTPF Community Talk Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for our new weekly radio shows. The KTPF Community Talk Show is supported by Phenomenon Magazine and Beyond Parazine, available online now.
The KTPF Community Talk Show is sponsored by Dragonos Castle, South Wales, one of the most haunted castles in Wales. For more information on ghostly and ghastly events, including Fright Nights, all-night investigations and hen parties, visit www.mosthauntedcastle.com.
The comments and views expressed on the KTPF Community Talk Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the views of ourselves or of our sponsors.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They've landed.
You're in the right place. Online, on the web, and on air. All over the world.
Talk Radio.
You hear us, we hear you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you'll bear with us tonight. We've had to change to live stream. Ustream. So I don't know what it's going to be like, and we seem to be having problems, unfortunately. But we will carry on regardless. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the KTPF Community Talk Show, broadcasting live from the UK and across the world online, every Sunday from 8 p.m. My name is Suzanne.
And I'm Steve.
And I'm Andy.
Hey! And we are here keeping the paranormal friendly on www.ktpf.co.uk. We bring you a relaxed show with no pressure, talking about various topics from cryptozoology to UFOs, whilst encouraging our guests and you to share information, advice, and most importantly, friendship. Remember, collaboration, not competition. This show incorporates a wide spectrum within this fascinating subject, so if you have any questions, you can use our live interactive chat room where we will ask our guests for you, or you can Skype in and speak directly to our guest by adding the ktpf.paranormal show. Later, we have the rundown of the latest events from paranormaleventsforyou.com. And we'd like to acknowledge everybody that's in the chat room. It doesn't really show me much on this side, but JW Cena, Beth Arzi is there. As I say, there's not many that's showing at the moment because I'm hoping that they migrate over from live stream because we are having a few problems with live stream tonight. On tonight's show, we have Micah Hanks, who is an author, researcher, and Fortean, and skeptical, by no means, inquirer into the UFO and anomalous activity. A radio personality whose work addresses a variety of areas, including history, politics, scientific theories, and unexplained phenomena. Micah is open-minded, but skeptical in his approach, as I said. His research has examined a broad variety of subjects over the years, incorporating interest in scientific anomalies, cultural studies, psychology, sci-fi and pop culture, including government secrecies and the prospects of our technological future as a species as influenced by science. We discuss the origins, aspects and far-reaching implications of the so-called transhumanist movement, technology, consciousness and spirituality, as well as how the singularity may relate to the UFO phenomena that still presents an enigma to present understanding. An author of many books and lives in the Appalachia, lives in the heart of Appalachia near Asheville, North Carolina. So we were speaking to him at 8:30. We've got Andy Mercer with us, who will also be conducting the interview with us, and he'll also be on later on with these conspiracy reports. So hopefully everything will work well tonight through Ustream, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience. So I'll speak to you shortly. Over to Steve.
Yes, as I say, we are on Ustream for change, but I'm going to post in both. Viscount seems to be having a problem, so we'll see if we can help out there. And that's it. There we go. There's a link for both of them, and here we go.
Off you go then.
I'm not.
That's because you won't be hearing anything, I don't think.
I should be. How I Met the Ghost of Number 10. Members of staff speaks about the Downing Street spirit. This is David's tale of what happened to him at number 10, Downing Street. He said, level-headed, rational, and I didn't believe in the supernatural until this encounter. Very early one morning in the darkness of the small dining room. Now he says, I can't explain it. It's something I don't often relate to people because it still sends shivers up my spine. David, now facilities manager at number 10, had just joined the staff when he had his strange encounter. He went on into the small dining room at around 6 a.m. to check preparations for an event. He saw that the lights had been left on in an adjacent room and went to investigate. He said, as I crossed the small dining room to the two large doors that open up into the state dining room, I passed the end of the table and absolutely jumped out of my skin because someone walked right past me. I'm talking about a space of a couple of feet, but because of the darkness I hadn't seen the person. On spinning around, the light from the door I'd entered through showed I was on my own. What really got my attention was that I heard the sound of a taffeta dress moving, rustling, and without wishing to sound dramatic, definitely felt the presence, nothing malicious or otherwise, but it definitely felt like someone was with me. So about 2 hours later, I was joined by one of my colleagues, and still buzzing with the early experience, related this to him, to which he said, "Oh, you've seen the ghost." Then he proceeded to tell me there was a lady in a white ball gown who goes between the state dining room and the pillared room. There you go. The ghost of number 10. So that is off by not hearing anything.
Do you want out there?
Somebody having problems?
No, you, I mean.
No, that's all right. I got it. Yes.
Can you hear it now?
I've got it now, yes.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes. Okay, let's get this next one up. As I said, I am posting it on both, just in case you guys are having problems.
Come on then, you're giving too much of a silent gap.
Yeah, I know, it just looks like that one didn't go just now. For some reason.
So, just keep talking.
Paste. Go. Yes, I said send. It's
try it on the other one.
It'll go on the other one, all right. Yeah.
You do it on there, and I'll sort it out.
There you go. It's going on that one.
Right.
So we'll keep that one going. Here we go. The photographer is stalked by a smelly ghost who stinks of fish, and arrives as an evil omen when tragedy is about to strike. An amateur photographer claims he's being haunted by a ghost that emits a peculiar smell of fish just before tragedy is about to strike to someone she knows. Someone she knows, not her. Laura Dickinson, 27, of Sittingbourne, Kent, claims she has smelt the fishy odour on a number of occasions before something bad has happened, such as a family friend dying or a grandmother being taken into hospital. Rather than fear the spectre which has stalked her for 10 years and its distinctive smell, Miss Dickinson has now come to accept that it takes the aroma as a clear warning to be on her guard. It also inspired her to become a ghost hunter and she has used her enthusiasm for photography to capture spectres on film, even photographing what she believes is the ghost of a monk in Kent. The Pong always appeared right before something bad happened, she said. Ever since I was little, I've sensed spirits around me. I'd picked up on the presence in the room, and the fishy smell would come as a warning. The ill-scented encounters started when Miss Dickerson was around 9 or 10, and shortly afterwards related what rushed into hospital after suffering a stroke. She said, in a way, the spirit's whiffy warning has helped prepare me. It was this episode which prompted Miss Dickerson to work as a ghost hunter, one of the UK's only film on stalkers. I don't know about stalkers, but we know quite a few female ghost hunters, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Okay, here we go. Here comes the next one. And our Andy's not going to like this one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Mainly because he don't believe, he says it's not possible and it's a load of nonsense. But here we go. 10 real incidents that prove time travellers exist. But here is just 4, as there's quite a few there. 1, the Charlie Chaplin movie's cell phone. In January 6, 1928, in the DVD extras of Chaplin's The Circus, people were given access to a short film and photos of the movie premiere at Grumman's Chinese Theatre in 1928, in which appears a person similarly talking on a cell phone, has convinced many people that time travel is real, as there are no cell phones during 1928. Some raise the prospect that this person was actually using an ear trumpet, but this does not explain why the woman appears to be laughing and talking into the device. Number 2, compact disc case in the 1800s. A painting from the 1800s shows a man holding what looks like a fancy CD case. The earlier form of plastic wasn't invented until the mid-1800s, and obviously compact discs weren't in use until 1980s. A time traveller, maybe. Hit and run victim from the past. In mid-June 1950, a man in his early 30s named Rudolph Fentz, wearing 19th century clothes, was hit by a car and killed in New York City's Times Square. The subsequent investigation by the NYPD policeman revealed that the man had disappeared without a trace in 1876 at the age of 29. The items in his possession were a copper token for a beer, a bill for the care of a horse and the washing of a carriage, a letter from 1876, $70 and business cards, all without any sign of aging, pointing that the man had travelled through time from 1876 to 1950 directly. The 4th one here is the Montauk Project Conspiracy. The Montauk Air Force Station reportedly has an interdimensional tunnel in its subterranean laboratory that allows scientists to travel back to 1943. This conspiracy circulated with 2 men, the author Preston B. Nichols and Al Bielek, in the 1980s, when they had begun to recover repressed memories of working in the lab. What do you think to them then, Mr. Andy Mercer?
My first comment is you're quoting stuff from a website called Before It's News, which is notorious for talking rubbish. It's difficult to say. I mean, I've seen the Charlie Chaplin thing. Yeah, it's definitely an ear trumpet. Combat disc, where's the picture? Not saying you, there, where's the picture? Hit and run. I mean, that photograph is supposed to be an image. It's like incredibly bad. And there's an image here of an old squashed car with a person lying in front of it, which looks very photoshopped. But the others, I don't know. Interesting. I do have, as we talked before, the fundamental problem with traveling back in time is you have the same particles of energy appearing twice in the same universe, and that kind of creates certain problems with reality. Forward in time is a different matter because you take something out of a current place and move them forward to another place further forward in time. But going back in time, you're replicating what's already present, and that creates problems with energy fields, I think.
Well, I might have something connecting to that a little later.
Okay.
There we go. There's a 15-year-old Bible found and nobody wants to know. February 4th, 2015.
2 seconds. Have you put the link up?
I have indeed.
Where did you put it?
I put it on the old KTPF page.
Thank you.
Can you see it
Hang on now.
or not? Okay,
And I point out,
We
it's
are
not
actually running on the old KTPF at the moment. Amanda from Livestream's checking it.
Okay,
So if Amanda, if you can hear me, it seems to freeze every now and again. So I hope you can hear me.
Right, here
you
we go.
100-year-old Bible.
As I was saying, a 100-year-old Bible found and nobody wants to know. February 4th, 2015. If this is true and nobody can say it's not, all I ever hear from religion is there is proof. So here you are, proof. A book predates already to 500 AD. If this book is real, then it changes religion. But like any Bible, it will be scrutinized and called wrong and blasphemous. I am saying if the Bibles of today are real, then this is real. If the new book is fake, then they're all fake. I dislike what religion says to this planet, so for me, I know it will hurt friends, family, but to all religious people reading this, you can't have your cake and eat it. This is what the man says. The Bible in question, which is reported to be at least 1500 years old, was discovered in Turkey. Inside there was a Gospel of Barnabas. The book was moved by Turkish government to one of their museums by the way of a police escort. Barnabas was one of the disciples of Jesus Christ, and in the Gospel of Barnabas it states that Christ was never crucified. It reads instead that he rose to heaven while alive. Judas was the one crucified instead. Additionally, this ancient Bible declares that Jesus was not the Son of God, but only a prophet who spoke the word of God. But the book also calls the Apostle Paul the impostor. In the press release that was sent out by the Turkish government, it said that the Bible was snatched from a mob of smugglers in the Mediterranean region operation. The report explains that the group was accused of trafficking antique relics, performing illegal archaeological digs, and being in the possession of explosives. The book itself is believed to be valued as high as $28 million. According to religious experts, the specialist located in Tehran, they believe the Bible is an original. It is written in gold letters against loosely bound blackened leather in Amharic. Can you say that for me, Andy?
Aramaic.
That's the one. Thank you. Sounds better when you say it. Which is the language that Jesus would have spoken. It is thought that during the Council of Nicaea, the Catholic Church chose which Gospels that appear in the regular Bible as it is known today. They would have tossed the Gospel of Barnabas out along with many others in favour of the four Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. There have been numerous supposed biblical texts which have come to light over time, including the Dead Sea Gnostic Gospels. However, this ancient Bible has especially seemed to bring worry to the Vatican. What would be something like this mean to the Vatican or the Christian-based religions and their believers? It would cause a very tight spot. The Vatican has requested the Turkish authorities let them look at the inside of the book within the church. Now that the ancient Bible has been found and the contents released to the public, what will the Catholic Church have to say about it? To believers, the Christian faith, this book will be considered a fraud and a fake, something to be ignored and forgotten about. To atheists, agnostics, or other people who are secular thinkers, they may wonder if the text is real or not, but more than likely they won't even care. But in the interest of being fair, as we all like to be, I have found a link that says it is fake, which I'm sure Sue will post for all to see.
I will.
You will.
If you put it on the live stream, I can take it.
There you go. There is the link that says it's fake and explains why.
Okay.
And we like to put both sides of the story, but if I was to read it out, it would be here forever.
The only thing I would contribute to that is I've actually read about that a while ago and thought it's quite fascinating. The suggestions that I have read is primarily it might well be a fake created by a follower of Islam. The main reason being is the fact that it claims Christ is not divine and just a prophet, which is very much in line with Islam's view of Christianity.
Yeah,
Of Christ.
I think that's the main problem with it more than anything else. The rest of it they can probably work their way around, but the fact that it agrees with Islam is not going to go down well with the Christian face. But
it's found in Islam. I mean, not saying anyone in Turkey necessarily faked it, but it's been found in an Islamic country, and it's very kind of in line with the Quran's view of Christ as opposed to Christianity's view of Christ. But fake or not, I would say I don't either way.
How are you doing for reports now?
Well, I can do this one, but you can tell me to stop after this one if you want.
Yeah,
if you're running short, I'll get through this one quickly.
Yeah.
Aliens or ghost? Staff and customers mystified by strange lights at a Bradford pub. This one was sent to me by Ghost Rider, so thank you for that. Staff at the customers at the Bradford pub have been left mystified by a series of bright lights captured on CCTV. Security cameras at the Dog and Gun, St Enoch's Road, Wibsey, have recorded bizarre white lights dubbed bright discs. The mysterious lights have been seen almost nightly over the last 3 weeks, mainly in the pub cellar and bar area. Staff are at a loss to work out what is causing the strange after-hours light show, which have also been spotted on cameras in the snug and near the gentlemen's toilets. Speculation in the pub is rife, and everything from orbs, aliens, ghosts discussed as possible reasons. Orbs are unexpected, typical circular phenomena which occur in flash photography, sometimes with trails indicating motion, which are especially common with modern compact, ultra-compact digital cameras. Lights have been spotted on footage taken during the day, but staff say they are mostly occur at night. Landlord Barry Gallagher, who played for Bradford City between 77 and 83, he says that he has no idea what is causing the problem, but says that it has proved to be a talking point in the bar. He said it's weird and unbelievable. I don't understand it. I would love someone to come into the pub who is scientific and explain it to me. We heard when we moved into the pub that it was haunted in the past. It's only by chance that we got to see this. People are saying that they are orbs, and quite big ones. It's seen going across. Lights are flashing here, there, and everywhere. I've even heard about these stories before. It's worth seeing the footage. This is always in the dark, and everyone is asleep. It goes on for quite a while, for more than a few minutes. It's the talk of the pub. We are getting quite a few people in asking about it. Something is going on, but I'm not sure what. It's like a light show. And I will stop there so you can contact Micah. I do have a couple more afterwards.
Okay, I need that link if you won't mind.
What one? The one you just...
One you just done.
It's already there, done it?
Yep, it's up. I've just looked at it.
Is it?
Yep.
Well, I'm lost. Right, okay, bear with me.
I will put it again for you if you want. It's the one that ends CDU.
Right, okay.
Yeah, the link was up.
I missed it.
Footage.
Sorry about that, I missed it. Okay, so we're actually broadcasting live on Ustream and Livestream.
Right.
Okay, so there are a few people in the live stream that's listening to us as we speak. The Viscount is quite happy because he's watching us on his phone, and he said it's live as it happens.
We've never had it on the phone before.
No, we haven't.
People keep saying they can't get it on the phone.
Yeah, we've got quite a few viewers in live stream. So as I say, we are still broadcasting on Ustream.
Yeah, we've got
Amanda. If you're there, if you can hear me, I'm not sure what's going on and whether you're doing something, but if you could contact me in the chat room, that would be great. Or even via email. But thanks, whatever you're doing, thank you. So I hope you're testing, as you said you are. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to get hold of Micah now. I keep saying Micah.
It's my fault.
So, and get him on the phone. Let me just, well, not on the phone, on on the thing. I'm just praying that everything works well tonight because
they're saying on the live stream that it is still breaking up.
right, okay,
But,
it's still breaking
if
up.
you want it to get on somewhere where it's not breaking up, you can go on to the Ustream
Ustream,
link.
I will put you the link. Okay.
There is a longer delay, but it's not breaking up. So
yeah, and also apparently you can get on it via registering via Facebook as well. So
you don't have to register to get on the
yeah.
faucet.
So okay, right. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Bear with me. Just make sure that he's ready for us.
So what are you saying about that Bible, Andy? Apart from the fact it leads towards the Quran.
Andy's disappeared.
Andy's disappeared.
Right. Okay. Let me
Difficult.
Let me just do this. Right. Right. Add person to this call. Let's find him. I'm glad my laptop's working. He's back now. Other than that, he's deaf.
Who?
You.
I'm here.
Yeah, you disappeared on us.
Only for a moment.
Yeah, I was saying about while Sue's trying to get hold of Micah, I was saying about the Bible thing. I mean, I'm sure I saw it last year sometime originally.
Yes, it's been around for a while, that story.
Yeah.
It's just going to comment quickly on the pub footage as well. Looking down the listing of people's responses, should say. Someone said, and I looked at it again, and I think they're right. The second one in the cellar, it's probably a spider making its web, hence the thing moving across the screen, and then the lights behind it. It's probably catching it on that. That might be quite right there. But it's funny, it's different other apostles,
Here we go.
apostles keep popping up all around the world at different times.
Yeah, so we are broadcasting on two live streams at the moment. Micah, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Please bear with us tonight. We're having technical problems. Basically, my live streams decided to muck about, so we're actually on Ustream tonight. So I'm a bit worried at the moment, but it won't affect our recording at all. So for YouTube problems, so. As I say, be wary. I'm a little bit on tenterhooks.
That's okay. Hey, nothing a sonic screwdriver won't fix, right?
Definitely. How are you anyway, Micah?
Oh, I'm doing wonderfully. I'm so glad I was able to join you. You know, tech issues or not, I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great. So, well, you've got myself, Suzanne, and my husband, Steve.
Hi, Micah.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good.
And also we have Andy, our parapsychologist.
Hello, Mike. How's things?
Things are good, Andy. Good to have you on here with us.
Okay. So, Micah, first of all, tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, goodness. Well, apart from being a mouthy individual, being Micah Hanks is, interesting, and I enjoy that because of the obvious adventure that is involved with being an interesting person, either by choice or by design. Now, I guess for me, I'm somebody who's fascinated with the small things in life, and the little wonder that you can derive from every kind of experience you can have in the everyday. But from an early age, I've had a particular fascination with the unexplained, ghosts and things like this, UFOs, cryptozoological creatures, and the kinds of things that, generally, and many would argue rightly so, cannot be attributed to being a part of the greater scientific catalog of knowledge that we have attained as humans. And I think that really the fundamental thing that we got to all remember is that all knowledge is something that we have to strive to attain, and I think that all phenomena begin as unexplained phenomena. And maybe there's some out there that we have yet to explain, and I think that we have to remind ourselves that from time to time. So that in a nutshell is me, and that's what I'm interested in.
Right. Okay. So what started you into this subject? You cover quite a lot on your show, obviously, and in your books. But what started you on this road? What was the trigger? Some people say Doctor Who's, that sort of thing. What was it for you?
For me, although I'm definitely a fan of the Doctor, that didn't come until much later. And at the insistence of followers of my work who kept saying, You know who you remind me of? I didn't know anything about Doctor Who, and I finally took people's lead and wanted to see who this man was who was impersonating me. I did, but when it comes to the actual interest in a lot of this phenomena, I think that that's maybe the reason for that comparison, in truth, because when I was a kid, I remember I came home one night from my grandparents' house and looked up into the sky, and I had seen a little light, which probably was nothing more than a star or maybe an airplane of some kind. But in my mind, the way I interpreted it, it looked like a rocket or something. It had a vaguely kind of a rocket-like shape, and I asked my parents about that. I said, "What's that?" And they said, "Oh, it's probably just an airplane."
Yeah.
But I was just fascinated, and I hear a lot of people nowadays that I'll talk with, who remember having these vivid memories of childhood that may or may not have actually been what their childlike mind was perceiving at that time. And that's a fundamental point, I think, to keep in mind about a lot of things, the way that our minds phrase things in our environment and the way that our attitudes toward them change as we get older. Because I've often said that I'm a skeptical person, and I really am, and I think that you have to be, but that doesn't mean that I doubt that all of these phenomena exist. I just don't know that it's always what we think it is. For example, let me give you a brief example. When I was probably in my early 20s, I really started getting serious into what we call the examination of parapsychology and claims of ghosts. And I really do think that there's something to it because of the historical catalog of data that we have. I mean, for about as long as there has been consciousness among humans, and for about as long as we have been keeping record of our activities on this planet, history as we would call it, we have had these reports of encounters with what we call spirits, apparitions, ghosts, specters, sometimes angels and demons. I mean, all different kinds of things. And I don't doubt that there is some sort of a phenomena that people are experiencing. But I wonder sometimes, do we have a lot of preconceptions about, like, for instance, what a ghost is? A simple question that a lot of people would say, why would you even ask this? A simple question would be, what is a ghost? Is a ghost really the spirit of a dead person, or is that merely what we generally attribute a ghost to being? Same you could ask about a UFO. Is a UFO an interplanetary spaceship like so many people would presume, or could a UFO be any number of things and sometimes simpler phenomena, but nonetheless an unexplained form of phenomena that we have yet to fully understand? And so for me, what it's been is coming from an early age, with interest in all of this, and reaching adulthood and going on into being a full-fledged researcher and writer who studies this sort of a thing, but who tries to strip it down to the basic questions and ask if we don't have cultural biases that we apply toward unexplained phenomena that cause us to go in one direction in relation to how we study it, when in fact it very well may be putting us right off the proverbial path, so to speak.
Right, okay. So before we go into UFO Singularity and other topics around that, can you tell us a bit about why you started the Gralien Report? Where did that all come from?
Yeah, the Gralien Report is a website that I moderate, and of course it's actually best known today as an audio podcast that I put out. We do stream live Monday nights on the KGRA radio network, and you can find that from my website. But the site itself actually dates back to a much earlier time. It was about 8 years ago, and I just wanted to essentially put together a news site that would kind of take a hard look at some of these kinds of things, although at times it has been extremely tongue-in-cheek. There's been a lot of humor that I've inflected into the Gralien Report. At other times, there's been a lot of seriousness. And I think that the current incarnation of the Gralien Report is a lot more serious and a lot more journalistic than it used to be. It began really as a blog where I was just, sounding off about paranormally themed subjects, sometimes skeptically, sometimes in defense of the apparent presence of a phenomena. Because I do feel that often what we call the skeptical movement today is something that is oftenly dismissing things out of hand, based more, I think, on the expectation of disbelief rather than the actual lack of evidence. Although in many cases there are phenomena that people believe in that I do think that there's a lack of evidence for. A simple example, for instance, would be what we call rods, these supposed sky fishes that sometimes photographs and things like that. It seems very obvious to me that it's based on the wing beat of a moth or other kinds of insects in relation to the aperture of the camera or the kind of the rate of film if it's video. Sometimes these things appear on video as well, and depending on the different frame rate, there can be little anomalies that can be interpreted as looking like one thing on camera, which if you or I saw it with our naked eye, we would be easily capable of discerning that's a moth. And so, sometimes it's that obfuscation between various media, film, or video or something like that, or even maybe the absence of light. We're in the dark, we hear strange noises, we think something strange is happening. That may or may not be the case, but in the absence of light, it makes it a little difficult to determine. So with the Gralien report, I kind of came into it in that attempt. And on the podcast from time to time, I'll even say that when we come back, your light in the darkness. It's important to light that candle in the dark, which Carl Sagan talked about. But I think also not to dismiss out of hand the possibility that there are genuine phenomena, as we'll be discussing in relation to UFOs here in a moment, that may exist.
Right, okay. Now, you consider yourself, you've said, as a skeptic. How do people approach you because of this?
That's a good question, Suzanne. Not often in a very angry way. It happens from time to time, but you got to keep in mind, for instance, when you're thrust into the midst of what may be a group of people who are more prone toward belief or advocacy in the presence of things like UFOs, and you're billed as a skeptic. This happened, for instance, back in 2013 when I was booked as a lecturer at the International UFO Congress in Fountain Hills, Arizona. I was the only skeptic, the only person billed as a skeptic that was on the entire roster of speakers that year. And at the end of the event, Richard Dolan, a good friend of mine, along with Stanton Friedman and I, we participated in a 3-person panel that our friend Lee Spiegel of Huffington Post moderated. And of course, he was playing up the fact that I call myself a skeptic. And people kept coming up to me and they were saying, Micah, I'm not getting much skepticism off of you. I've heard that often. And I say this because, and I would, in fact, in response to people who say I don't get much skepticism off of you, I don't think that the skepticism, which I think is fundamental Pyrrhonist skepticism, questioning everything and abstaining from just leaping to a conclusion because it seems to be the case, I maintain that real true skepticism is never dismissive or cynical toward evidence. It merely asks questions about how best can we approach this in order to find the truth. That's what I think we're trying to find. And with the modern skeptical movement, we see, for instance, the famous James Randi, who has time and time again claimed to have been able to, completely debunk various phenomena. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake has been an object of his attacks over the years, and yet recent indications, including actually the UK media, I believe it had been the Daily Mail that had featured a very, very elaborate article on this. Randi was not able to back up a lot of the claims of debunking that he had been espousing for years in relation to Sheldrake's work. And in fact, it seems more and more that there were outright lies told about the quote-unquote evidence to support the falsehood of Dr. Sheldrake's work. And so we see that there are not all, but some members in the skeptical community who are less than ethical about what they claim is the truth. And frankly, I think it is more that cult of belief that they are appending to skepticism than true honest skepticism. Now, there have been times where I've had to say to somebody before, look, what you're presenting to me does not seem to be substantive. It does not appear to be something that is supported by facts.
Yeah.
But that is a different thing than to just dismiss out of hand and to lie, even worse, to make the claim that something doesn't exist. And that's what we've seen certain members of the skeptical movement doing. So I'm not that skeptic. And that's what I tell people generally in terms of reception.
Right. And what do you think to James Randi dropping down at the moment?
You mean the audio level?
He's stepping down, isn't he, apparently? And he's backing off now or something, retiring or something.
Yes, he said it's going to retire, but also we actually talked about the Sheldrake stuff last week, so remember?
Yeah, we did.
He has been attacking Rupert Sheldrake for a number of years and had to back off because one of the main claims he made against Sheldrake was clearly false. And he's now semi-publicly apologised for his statements against Rupert Sheldrake, but not as publicly as he criticised him, which I think is rather interesting. But sorry, I just wanted to get that bit in there. So carry on.
I believe he's stepping down now. He's decided to retire.
He's stepping down from the educational thing he does.
Yeah.
He's still going to try and out people.
Do you think he'll still try and out people, Micah?
He said he was.
And we're talking about James Randi, correct?
Yes.
I wonder if I think he'll always be a vocal opponent of claims of the paranormal, but he's also up in his years and he's spent a lifetime aggressively attacking claims of the paranormal. But again, I'm sure that he'll remain probably that kind of one of the figureheads in the movement, and I'm sure that we probably haven't heard the last of him. I'll say that.
Right. Okay. Now, just before we go any further, we've got somebody in the chat room now where she actually asked us to get you on the show, and her name's Beth Arzi.
Oh, Beth. Beth
Yeah.
is absolutely a dear. One of my dearest listeners out there, and of course somebody I consider a friend as well.
Yeah,
But
so,
she knows that. She knows that.
so I just wanted you to say hello to her.
Oh, she's so sweet. Hey, Beth, how you doing? Of course, I love hearing from Beth, and I have to just say this really quickly. I hope you don't mind, but Beth is a wonderful musician, and as much as she might like hearing my voice from time to time on podcasts and shows, I equally enjoy hearing Beth Arzi because she's one of the finest singers, and I keep saying that one day I'm going to employ her vocal talents on a recording I do. So let it be on the record right here and now, folks. Okay?
Talking about music, you're into bluegrass, I believe.
Yeah, I am.
And jazz.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything. My dad was, as a matter of fact, still is, although he doesn't do it that much anymore. My father is still a great jazz guitarist and a collector of jazz music. But he also plays bluegrass banjo. He's one of the most accomplished musicians I've ever known.
Right.
Like Beth, in fact. And, he's been a great influence on me. But yes, part of what I do, in my, I guess you could call it spare time, although really, I guess technically I do more of it for my living than just for enjoyment, is performing as a musician, and so that's a big part of who Micah Hanks is.
Right, now, how does the internet impact on your research?
I find that it helps a lot, and there's more good than bad, in my opinion. A lot of people think, oh, the internet, it's back in the old days we had to go to libraries and we had to look for information. And I find that there is so much information that has been stored in books, in analog, we might say. and people, the problem with the internet is that researchers, especially into this kind of phenomena, but it's not exclusive to the unexplained. I mean, because I've got one foot in the unexplained. I mean, I also do a podcast called Middle Theory that's news and events, and so I follow history, current events, politics, global affairs, economics. The unexplained is merely one of many things that I have a serious interest in, including music. And with any subject that you're researching, what you will find is that there are people who will use the internet, and unfortunately, I think that they will tend to reach for the lowest hanging fruit in terms of information and evidence. I do maintain people need to go out and get in books and go to libraries, get into books and find information. The internet, however, and the people who are the decriers of the internet age and what it's done to libraries and books and proper research, as it were, they often fail to mention the fact that thanks to the World Wide Web, we can find out about books that otherwise we might not have known. Even with the world's most elaborate card catalog, we would not have been able to find those books. And with the web, for instance, I've done a lot of research into what I guess would call classically sea serpents.
Yeah.
And there has been, ever since maybe the 1950s or 60s, the attitude that some of these sea serpent reports might be accounted for by large eels. This is not a new idea by any means. But what's interesting is I've found that in the 1960s, and throughout the subsequent decades, when biologists, the likes of Roy P. Mackle and others, were going back and forth over the different possibilities as it relates to reports of what appear to be, literally dinosaur-like creatures, for lack of a better term, that have appeared from time to time in various literature. There have been a lot of different suppositions. Could they be plesiosaurs? Could they be some sort of an unknown species? Could they be a known species but a larger variety of them? Since we know we've got large squid, we've got, all the largest animals basically in the world, including the very largest known, the blue whale, exist in our oceans. It seems very logical that if we're going to find another large animal, the oceans will be where to look. And marine biologists speculate, as recently as the last few years, that there may be as many as 70 new large species of animals in the oceans that we have yet to discover. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely.
As we think about the idea about sea serpents and the idea of the eel and how the eel may work into all of this, I had begun to dig up obscure reports of the discovery of what are called leptocephalus, which are essentially eel larvae. Now, an eel larva typically is about 1/32 the length of the adult eel before it begins to mature, and they go through different stages of elvers, and then they become, I think what's called a yellow eel, and then they, of course, get a little older. They turn silver in color, their eyes begin to bulge, and they reach sexual maturity. And both the European and also American varieties of eel, they'll breed in the Sargasso Sea, but then they'll head upstream and they'll actually go up into freshwater territories, and then once they reach maturity, they come back down and they breed again in the ocean, and it's a very strange life cycle. When we have the oceanic eels, again, we don't expect to find giant eels, and yet there have been reports of leptocephalus, the larvae of eels, that have been anywhere from long as 2 to maybe 6 feet in length. And I'm able to find information about a lot of this through rather obscure science journals that if I hadn't had access to the World Wide Web, I wouldn't know about. And I want to just point out really quickly, we now know, thanks to the accumulation of knowledge about these kinds of subjects, that the 6-foot-long, quote-unquote, apparent larva of an eel actually was what is known as, I believe, a notocanthriform. In other words, a snub-nosed spiny eel, which is not really an eel. It's a little more like a fish, a close relative, kind of in between. And this was not exactly an eel larva as we would expect it to be, or had to have thought it would be back in 1936, I believe, when Anton Brunn pulled one up in a fishing net off the coast of Africa. So the point is that there's a lot of obscure data out there, and as researchers into this kind of stuff, sometimes we have to dig into the minutia of technical data in order to understand what we may or may not be dealing with. And while I haven't found good proof that these leptocephalus are eel larvae of an extraordinarily large variety, I've found a lot of good data to help me understand what it may or may not be, and the web has certainly helped with that.
You seem to be interested in the lesser studied facts, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, how many, we hear about cryptozoology.
Yeah.
People want to go, they want to look at Bigfoot reports. People want to go and they want to look at reports of, flying monsters or sea monsters. And, again, it's sometimes the smallest things, the eel larva that's a few inches long that may hold the key to understanding all this, So, yeah, you have to look at the minutia. And that's why I say that, really, I maintain a fascination with the tiny things, because usually it's the last little thing where we think to look that we'll find maybe the best evidence for for something.
Now, in your book, The UFO Singularity, can you tell us a bit of what it's all about?
Absolutely. The broader concept I'd hoped to write about, because I never considered myself a commentator on UFOs until maybe a few years ago, and I was approached by the staff of the magazine here in the United States that was known as UFO Magazine, and there'd been one in Britain as well. And I began writing a column online and then a column in print for a short period for that magazine. And at present, I'm not sure about the status of the magazine. It had a brief comeback, and now I don't know that it's going to remain in print, but I remain friends with the folks who had been the producers of that magazine. They had invited me to come and start writing for the magazine, and I thought that's novel because, if anything, I think I've been best known for investigation into things along the lines of cryptozoological matters, earth lights. I've had a long fascination with the Brown Mountain lights here in western North Carolina, which are similar to the Hesselen lights in Norway, for those who are familiar with that earth light phenomena. My publishers at New Page Books in New York had approached me about doing a comprehensive book on UFOs, and so I wanted to do a book called The UFO Reality that looked at the minutia, yet again, the best evidence that I felt could be made for there being an apparent anomalous phenomena that is observed in our skies. And one area that I wanted to focus on was the way that our present-day technology, and maybe more importantly, the technology of the future, would influence our study of this phenomena that we call UFOs. Many people, yet again, dismiss out of hand UFO because they take it to mean a spaceship from outer space, or something piloted by extraterrestrial entities. And I do want to point out that going back even prior to Project Blue Book, which the files for which were, it was reported, had been released online finally, that's actually not the case. They've been online for years, and they've been publicly available for longer than there's been the internet. But a diligent researcher by the name of John Greenwald had managed to get PDF versions of them on his website, The Black Vault, which now have been taken down because of all things a copyright infringement suit. Yeah.
Second, yes, I reported on that a few weeks ago, and then said, "Well, I can't find them." Literally on the show we were talking about it, and they had vanished. So, yeah, thank you for that, Micah. That feels that detailed info.
Isn't that strange, though? Yeah, and just to be brief about that is, Ancestry.com of all websites they had a subsidiary website called Fold3 that claimed the digital copyright on those files. So, yeah, and that was apparently what the case was. So anyway, John Greenwald's had to take those down, but I bring that up because even before Project Blue Book, we had Project Sign, who had given this was an Air Force project that was essentially determining, to the best of their ability, based on the facts, what this apparent UFO phenomena was. And one of their determinations in their so-called estimate of the situation had been that this might be, or some of them might be, extraterrestrial phenomena. We don't know, but there was a possibility, and maybe even a likelihood at that time in the 1950s, that they felt that could be what we were dealing with. Now, with the UFO singularity, I don't dismiss that possibility, but I have often wondered if there were not other technologies that there are not maybe still technologies in our midst here on Earth, maybe of earthly design that we don't know about. And so the central crux of the book is really looking at the idea that there might be technologies from here on Earth, and also at very least the possibility that we may be at times incorporating into what we call the UFO presence, various earthly technologies that may be capable of extremely advanced physics, maybe even on par with what we would liken to time travel. Now, there was a skeptical commentator who I actually have a lot of respect for, and I should actually, if I'm going to mention his name, I should say in equal measure that I also respect him a lot as a person, Jason Colavito. We often disagree, but I still respect even those who are opponents. And Jason had said Micah Hanks' book is about aliens from the future and other made-up ideas. Well, that's not exactly what the book's about. But by the same token, I do maintain that, there is a lot of speculation about this, and I think that we have to look at the data we've collected about UFOs and from time to time try to draw, although carefully, and only when it can be backed up with good factual information, we have to try and draw connections about what we may be dealing with so that we can better determine what the phenomena is. And this is where things get a little difficult for people. In their simplest essence, I'll say this, that what my personal survey of UFO phenomena has brought me is that while there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of anomalous reports, and people say, oh, you're young, you haven't read all the old stuff. I think I own almost every book that's almost every book that's ever been published about UFOs.
Okay. Steve's got a question for you.
Well, sure, go ahead. That's fine.
Talking about the UFOs, I think part of the problem with our understanding of UFOs, is us not understanding the technology. Do you think that's a big part of it?
Well, absolutely, yeah. To answer your question, the very quick final point that I was going to make just a moment ago was that, my own survey has not indicated clearly that we're dealing with something extraterrestrial. So whether we're dealing with something that people perceive as ETs or we're dealing with something that is apparently our own, whatever this technology is, when remember Clarke's third law, which was essentially the idea that any significantly more advanced technology as observed by a lesser advanced civilization will perceive that technology as magic. Whatever we're perceiving right now, it's hard for us to account for because it seems so far beyond what we know to exist that it seems literally the stuff of magic. That could be our very own technology, but that doesn't help those who are unaware of that technology, like you said, Steve, to reconcile with it any better. And so that's the fundamental problem we have to try and face and reconcile with UFOs. We have to try and get to a point where we say, okay, we may not know what it is, but we can at least account for a phenomenon. But maybe the question for many is, can we account for there being a phenomenon?
Definitely. Andy?
What? Sorry. You threw me there.
Sorry.
Got you.
Touchdown! No.
I was getting a message from a previous guest who I'm saying should be listening into this. I think he'd find you very interesting what you have to say. I'm certainly finding myself agreeing with a lot of what you're saying, that we do jump very much to conclusions too quickly on the nature and the origins of phenomena that we might be examining or detecting. So, yes, I like very much what you're saying at the moment, certainly. So carry on.
Well, thank you, Andy. Yeah, but again, that's the thing, is that to me, in the tradition of skepticism going all the way back to ancient Greece, we don't have to put on togas or anything, but we can at least adopt the idea. It's important to ask questions. And I know that a lot of modern skeptics would be cringing when they hear that. And I know that they really disagree with me on this point. They say, Micah, you're really a believer in sheep's clothing. You're somebody who really believes, and you're just saying that we should just ask questions, and that's fundamentally dangerous. Well, let me tell you, it is dangerous, I think, guys, when we're talking about, well, let's just ask questions about, any number of controversial issues that fall under the guise of what people call pseudoscience, whether it ranges from faith healing to the anti-vaccination crowd. There's been a big to-do here in the States about a measles outbreak that many in the science community say could have been avoided if vaccinations had been properly applied. And sure, I think that there are some people out there who say it is my right to choose whether I think that a vaccination is something that is safe to be administered to my child. The other end of the argument, which is interesting, and I'm not trying to take a side on the argument, but more importantly just to point out that there is this argument. There are those who say it's my right to choose, and then there are others who are saying, yes, but if your child has not been vaccinated and contracts measles and spreads that, when a choice that you have made is putting others at risk, that's when it becomes a problem. And so it's a very difficult issue. But how that relates to skepticism is the fact that we have to take into consideration that from time to time there are things that may be damaging for people. And when science can say, okay, this is a pseudo-scientific claim that may cause someone to become ill, a wonder drug that will cure cancer doesn't really cure cancer at all, but somebody in good faith pays money for it, takes it, and they die. That's a problem. And so I understand the necessity for skepticism in relation to the dangers that are present in our lives, but I don't see anything dangerous per se, at least outwardly, about saying, okay, look, there may be evidence that constitutes some credible basis for the existence of a creature that we recognize as Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, isn't it?
Not dangerous.
It's quite weird that, I mean, we have a lot of reports of some cryptozoology, i.e. Sasquatch and Chupacabra, and they all seem to be around or in the area of UFO sightings. So is there a link, you wonder?
I can tell you this. There was, whether or not it's causative, there was a study that was carried out for the Freakonomics blog at the New York Times website. And the blog had actually, just for fun, decided to document UFO hotspots in relation to Bigfoot sighting reports, and they did find what appeared to be statistically a significant correlation between the locations of the sightings of the two separate phenomena. Now, again, the reason I say it may not be causative is because a correlation, as we know, can exist without there necessarily having to be causation. There doesn't have to be a this appears and therefore it is causing this for correlations to be drawn. So we have to be very careful about that. But I can at very least speak to the if you ask if there's a connection, we would first have to be able to prove that UFOs and Bigfoot exist. I think that there is some compelling data for both. I wouldn't be here talking with you if I didn't think that. But the fundamental question about this has to be answered first, in relation to whether they both are real, valid phenomena. If they were, it would be certainly interesting in light of the fact that we have this apparent correlation. And I should find that article and send it to you. It's pretty interesting. But there have been researchers over the years who have made that comparison, apart from actual statistical analyses, including Stan Gordon, a gentleman who I believe is Pennsylvania-based, and he's been a hardcore researcher for years who's claimed that there have been numerous sightings of Bigfoot and mystery hominids or upright walking creatures that resemble humans but a little more hairy and primitive, in conjunction with UFO sightings.
Yeah, there's that's something that's always kind of bothers me with the UFO when people are saying, well, they're seeing aliens and they're this color and that color. Why are they always humanoid? Why are they always 2 legs, 2 arms, and okay, the head's a bit bigger and the eyes are bigger, but why do they always look like basically us?
That's a good question too. I would argue this. Even our best scientists, our physicists, our exobiologists, and those who are supposed to be the greatest thinkers. Not that I doubt that they are. I mean, I really think that many of them are. But people who are recognized as the greatest thinkers in relation to those kinds of questions you just asked, they have said, on a distant planet, it's almost certain that life will evolve and will take vastly different forms from what we know life to be. But I would say that may not be the case. And the reason why is because I wouldn't doubt that there are other forms of life very different from us, and that humanoid may not be the interdimensional or interplanetary standard. But I think that life like we know it, physical life that has rudiments of what we appear to recognize as consciousness, may be dependent on certain evolutionary universal constraints that are conducive to the formation of humanoid entities and beings. In other words, like a hand could fit into a glove, consciousness may be best suited for a humanoid shape. But then again, by the same token, you wouldn't try and put a foot into a hand glove, would you? And that doesn't, in other words, if we're going to use the analogy of the glove, i.e. that the body is the vessel for consciousness and the soul, as we might, liken it according to our cultural belief systems around the world since time immemorial, there could be any number of different forms of intelligence apart from what we recognize as conscious, intelligent life. And so I think that might at very least explain why so much of what we perceive as being strange phenomena is so often humanoid, but I don't think that by any means that humanoid is necessarily the universal standard. But the problem is that we don't know. And we haven't gotten to a point where we've really obtained and cataloged a lot of data that can conclusively say, well, we know that this many alien civilizations exist. And yet, what's so funny, guys, is that I see that there are a lot of people who are advocates of the exopolitical angle on all this, and they'll tell you that. They'll say that there are 5 different civilizations that have been visiting Earth since 1954 or whatever. If there were good evidence for that, shouldn't we know about it? And I know people would say, no, it's been kept from us, or yes, certain factions of people do know about this. So I will allow for the possibility, and maybe there is a cover-up. Maybe there are things that we really don't know, but I feel like there should be more obvious evidence of extraterrestrial life out there if we were indeed being visited by these said civilizations.
Yeah.
That's just my take.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the humanoid looking thing, I was kind of wondering if we're being made to see them that way because that's what we understand.
Yes, or could it even be that there's some facet of the way that our minds interpret phenomena, that various other kinds of phenomena could be influencing the human mind, which then we interpret as being a communion, to borrow Whitley Strieber's term, with some sort of a humanoid entity, which I think really is the same thing you were saying in a slightly different roundabout way. But yeah, I wonder about that. I think before we can understand any of this, we really have to fundamentally understand consciousness. Through understanding consciousness, we may be better equipped to understand the modalities of communication and whether or not they would be physical in nature. Alien contact may not be aliens visiting Earth or us finding an alien civilization somewhere out there. It may happen in a number of ways, and that may not be entirely physical.
Yeah, I mean, we could also look at it as from the conspiracy theory and say that it's actually our own people that are dressed this way to make people think that.
Yeah, Strieber in Communion had written what I think was a rather brilliant passage, and in it he, I think, almost in a slightly tongue-in-cheek, and I hope you wouldn't disagree with my interpretation of it as being that, but he said, in terms of what he perceived as being an ongoing alien abduction, he had wondered at the outset, could these be time travelers from our future who are donning costumes to prevent some sort of a temporal paradox? Whether or not that's really the case, I think that we have to, take a step back from the literal interpretation of a lot of what we read, and I think that that's the whole point. People have taken, for instance, Strieber's writing as being the best evidence of alien visitation, and he would often point out early on, and maybe still today, I'm sure he still does today, having spoken with him a little bit about this on one occasion, that he is very, very hesitant to leap onto the "we are being visited by aliens" bandwagon. There are any number of varieties of different experiences that what we have perceived as being alien contact, what that might represent. Everything from on the extremely skeptical end of being remembrances of birth experiences, to maybe on the visionary scope of things, some sort of a interdimensional contact, that occurs in a more induced kind of a state, maybe a hallucinative kind of a state, rather than being an actually overt physical kind of a scenario. And then there's, of course, the idea that we may have been visited by aliens just as well. I don't think we can rule that out, but I'm amazed at how little evidence we have for it to be as broad a phenomena as so many people interpret it as being, which I don't think necessarily says there's not a phenomenon. I just think that whatever it is that we're experiencing and accounting for here, it's probably not what we think it is, because if it were, we should be doing a better job at defining it as such.
All right, Andy?
Yes, a couple of little points, actually. I remember watching a TV program some years ago that was talking about the dinosaurs and what would have happened had they survived as opposed to being wiped out. And the evolutionary process would have taken them to a form that is not dissimilar to us in terms of 2 arms and 2 legs, 2 eyes at the front. So the suggestion I would like to make is that it's quite possible that life just genuinely evolves, if it's carbon-based, into this form because it's the most useful and convenient. But by the same token, there are all sorts of odd, strange phenomena that we do experience and report that could be aliens, but we wouldn't recognize them as a living entity in the same way we are. I mean, like lights, it could be just purely intelligence or purely consciousness or gaseous forms, etc., that they may be coming here from wherever, and we wouldn't even recognize them as being as such. So it's just really want to make that little point.
Oh, absolutely. Good points right there, Andy. And, first of all, let's talk about dinosaurs for a minute, because dinosaurs fascinate me. They have, for as long as I've been able to read. we see a variety of different interesting forms that in the ancient world large reptilians took, including long-necked. Granted, we've got animals just like that on planet Earth today, the giraffe, but of course not nearly quite the size as maybe a Brachiosaurus diplodocus, or more recently as we have seen the Dreadnoughtus, this incredibly large animal. I mean, a massive creature, roughly the same length of a 747, something so large that had it fallen over, paleontologists are not certain it would have been able to stand back up. Generally, we don't see land-dwelling animals that, and actually an animal like that in likelihood might have done better as being semi-aquatic, not necessarily flippers and swimming, but I mean something that supports its massive weight, perhaps in part by existing partially in water. That may be the big link here with a lot of these larger animals. But we also did see during the many the many years that the dinosaurs actually spent here on planet Earth, long before we arrived here. We also saw bipedal forms. We of course had the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which I think is like 99.99% genetically similar to a chicken that would run around in your backyard on a farm.
Very true.
Tyrannosaurus Rex, of course, this great predator of the ancient world, was indeed a much more bird-like, really, in relative terms, but a bipedal creature. We have the Velociraptors, whose intelligence was purportedly on par with a chimpanzee or a young child. And we had a variety of different forms. We had a variety of different levels of intelligence, and really the ancient world, to think that was the standard of life on this planet at any time in the history of our world, that in itself is truly fascinating. But yeah, I think that maybe if indeed animals like dinosaurs had not been wiped off the face of the earth by cataclysms, would we have seen them evolve into forms very similar to what we already recognize here on Earth? Had they been given the time, might they have reached that point as well? Who knows? It's a good question, which brings to mind the idea that, as some have suggested, that there could still have been dinosaurs or dinosaur-like animals that have survived into the present day. One famous example, Mokele mbembe, a creature believed to inhabit the Lake Tele area in the Congo River Valley Basin.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, a friend of mine, Richard Freeman from he's a cryptozoologist. He's forever going to look for the Mokele-mbembe, isn't he? And amongst others, the orang pendek.
The orang pendek is his main one at the moment.
Yeah, but going back to your book, Micah.
Either's fine.
You talk about transhumanism, the singularity that speculates a near future transformation of humans into super intelligent, highly evolved machines via artificial intelligence. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Where you come into that?
Yeah, that's a good question too, because a lot of people think, what has this got to do with UFOs? Well, I mean, the obvious question, I think, is that as many proponents of what we call technological singularity, essentially when machines wake up, when we create, and not just it's not just, I think, machines waking up, but I think also machines not becoming intelligent and integrating to a level in our society and in our reality that it blurs the lines between what we perceive as being man and machine. It blurs the lines between what we perceive as being imaginary and the consensus reality. All of these kinds of things can, and in likelihood, no matter how long it takes to get there, can and in likelihood will be changed by the advent of artificial intelligence. So naturally, I began looking at alien technologies, or at least the belief that there may be alien life elsewhere in the universe.
Yeah.
Naturally, I began looking at this under the auspices of there being the possibility that there may be alien life elsewhere out there who have gone through what Ray Kurzweil and others, and some of the folks who I interviewed for my book, including Alexei Turchin, a Russian transhumanist, and as well as Ben Goertzel, who is probably one of the leading AI researchers in the world. They're both mentioned in the book and interviewed. Specifically, I've talked with Ben Goertzel twice now, and others since the book was written. Artificial intelligence just is concomitant, I think, with understanding the ways that alien life may reach us, and maybe more importantly, the next steps that humans will take in the evolutionary steps towards becoming extraplanetary ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that more people don't look at that. And with the idea of transhumanism, which transhumanism, apart from the idea of artificial intelligence and all this, transhumanism has to do with the literal idea of our own ability to modify technologically ourselves and change what fundamentally humans are and have been, and the humans of tomorrow, what they will be. That is a huge question. It has been asked at times, whether the UFO phenomena might be time travelers from the future coming back to keep tabs on what's going on. And, just as crazy as any of these other ideas, that one probably fits in just as well, in my opinion. In which case we would almost inevitably be dealing with the product of a post-singularity transhuman society who has finally become capable of traversing the boundaries between space and time, and can interact with past or possibly future epochs. A question we might ask, we hear about ancient aliens all the time. What if aliens visiting Earth had been an ancient alien civilization that existed millions of years ago, but that they had reached a point of technological proficiency on their planet or in their planetary system that they harnessed the power of the atom, and then beyond that maybe the power of the star nearest them, and then beyond that perhaps they created artificial intelligence and they self-improved themselves technologically. They mastered gravity, they mastered dimensional travel, they are capable of time travel. They visit not only the past, but they head into the future. They come, they see us. We're dealing with ancient aliens who are visiting us right now in that hypothetical thought game. But, again, all these questions should be asked.
Yeah.
And it really fundamentally does, to me, come down to the question about time, because what we may be dealing with is what we call a phenomena in our consensus space-time reality right here in front of us may be anything but that. So, yeah, maybe it is a bit of an imaginary idea, but we have to ask these questions to help ourselves think outside the box enough to frame the narrative in all the respectful ways that we can.
Yeah. Now, in your book, you mentioned time. You do talk about time travel. You touch on it. How does this connect?
To me, time travel, it connects with a couple of phenomena we could address here, not just UFOs, but maybe also ghosts. Time is a funny thing. Time is, in likelihood, a construct of human thought. And in fact, time and space probably are the same thing. And I think the best evidences of that are exactly what Einstein talked about. And what we now today sometimes refer to as time dilation seems to be evidence of the warpage of space-time. The interrelationship between that and gravity, or rather the effect that gravity has on all such things, seems to be integral to all this. But in the book, what I talk about specifically, there was a chapter in Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time that really caught my attention, in which he discusses what he calls the thermodynamic arrow of time. Mm-hmm. And really what he's talking about is he's getting into the realm of what many of the modern, what we call singularitarians, the transhumanist thinkers, are talking about. The idea that we will either create a machine that can think as intelligently as humans, or that humans will improve upon their natural intelligence utilizing machinery or digitization of human thought in the future. And Hawking made the comparison between the way a mind functions and the way that a machine utilizes, well, essentially we use energy and the expenditure of energy, which of course produces heat, which is essentially the entropic force, entropy being measured as the expenditure of heat. He basically makes this kind of a connection between the way a mind works and the way a machine works. A computer can create a lot of order in the universe. It can store memory. But the computer will expend a lot of energy in doing so, and the computer is never capable of storing more knowledge or creating more harmony and order in the universe than the energy that is cost in order to do that, which is in keeping with entropic forces. Entropy always wins. And according to Hawking, that means that there is a thermodynamic arrow of time. We remember the past, again likening our minds to a computer, because our brains are oriented in our space-time reality in such a way that we remember in the same direction, so to speak, in which entropy increases. And we could read a book and we could memorize every word in that book, but the time that it would take to put into that, the energy that it would cost, the meals, the number of meals that would have to be consumed to sustain life in an individual for the length of time it would take to read that book, to create the order within their mind, is far outweighed by the entropy, the expense of energy. But at some point, and this is where things kind of interestingly get into the realm of 0 point and free energy and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If we were to get around entropy, not only would we be capable of probably creating free energy, but also the negentropy. I think that term was first used by Schrodinger. That applied to human minds in the future might also allow differences in the way that we perceive space-time. If entropy is preventing us, for instance, from remembering the future right now, if we ever actually master negentropy, the negation of the entropic forces that cause the mind to function the way it does, we may easily remember the future like a psychic would say they could right now. Furthermore, we apply that to technologies. We apply that to, we don't have time travel. We can't go back in time, but we can remember the past, and that seems to be a step in the right direction. Will we eventually harness technologies that will be capable of literally lessening the boundaries between what we perceive as the present and what we perceive as the past or even the future? And that idea that some physicists and philosophers alike posit that we exist in a block universe where time doesn't exist and that past, present, and future are all really one static entity, but that we are perceiving it in a linear way because this is how the human mind functions and has evolved to function. We may, with the utilization of technology, be able to step beyond that one day. So that's how I think time travel actually fits into all this.
Right, now, just out of curiosity, what are your views on alien abduction, super soldiers, and MELABs?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've met a lot of people who have, over the years, claimed that they have been a part of secret programs, what we might call MELABs or military, laboratories, that many associate with the broader alien abduction narrative. And I don't know. Actually, I think that there might be some evidence for this sort of a thing. The idea that there are secret programs that are going on behind the scenes that are seeking to essentially create transhumans right now. There are ethical questions about this. For instance, we had Dolly the sheep a few years ago. You guys remember?
Yeah.
And there has been the question about, well, if we can clone a sheep, can we clone a human? Is it ethical to clone a human being? We take a heartbreaking instance, the likes of which where a family has a newborn child who is suddenly stricken with an illness, and if there's the fear that that newborn child may not make it, is it ethical to consider cloning the individual? It's not really, in truth, that life being saved, I guess, and that's a difficult discussion to have because it has so many ethical considerations. So right now, according to our current, feelings about this, generally in the international community, we don't condone the idea of playing God in the sense, cloning individuals and creating human beings in strange and freakish ways. But there have long been these allegations, I think, that these kinds of things might be happening behind the scenes nonetheless. And I was approached by a television production company a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and we had numerous talks because they wanted me to appear as a transhumanist expert, an expert in technology and transhumanism. On this program. They wanted me to address the idea whether I thought that there were secret facilities that were creating human-animal hybrids and all kinds of other things. And I said, look, I couldn't tell you that that's happening, but I could tell you that if the technology exists and people can do it, they will do it. History has shown that. And so in likelihood, if it could be done, it would be done. And there's at least that possibility that it is being done. But that, in relation to UFOs, some have, again, Whitley Strieber has even brought this up. He believes that there's a military component. And when I brought this up to him, he said, no, Micah, I'm saying I've had men in army suits enter my bedroom at night and speak to me in English. A lot of people have said that they've had this experience and that it's not an alien component, but that they have an actual intrusion by human beings who are part of some sort of a behind-the-scenes operation where human beings are tested and things are done to them. I haven't seen any absolute proof of this, but this is certainly a belief held among many who, again, try and argue with someone like Whitley, who has said that this has happened to him. And I can't say that it hasn't. I couldn't sit and say to somebody, you didn't have that experience. Many people do. Who are we to say that someone hasn't had that experience? Just because there isn't overt evidence for it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And so I have at very least entertained that possibility of what we call in the broader sense the MyLab or MELAB idea, and the possibility that some of what we perceive again as being the UFO phenomena and the abduction phenomena could be related to that. It would seem more likely, in fact, in my mind, maybe than outright full-on physical alien contact.
Right, okay. Now, there's a lot of talk about in the past and probably still going on now of where we go after we expire our life. Have you ever wondered what's actually under our skin? Have you ever thought about where we come from in that respect? Some people think we are aliens. What's your theory? What's under our skin, Micah?
Gosh, in terms of there being a theory, I guess I wish I could tell you I have a theory. the science behind this seems to suggest that there's a likelihood that the building blocks of life may not have been present on ancient Earth, but that in order for them to have arrived here, that actually a meteoritic impact, probably a meteor carrying these building blocks of life, various proteins and the like, may have traveled here to this Earth from someplace else. And so in that sense of things, it very well may be that we do indeed, and this is, I think, in the very most sincere sense of the term, we have alien origins. In likelihood, humans probably do in some way or another. And those things that led to the most fundamental first building blocks, the amino acids swarming in primordial pools that literally come together and form simple life forms that go on to begin to become cellular, and then from becoming cellular life form to becoming multicellular life forms, and still existing in the water, but eventually crawling out of that ooze and coming on land for whatever reason. We can assume reasons why a mud skipper might have come on land. He was a fish when he started, and he was a frog by the time he got there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've touched on your book, the UFO Singularity, which was actually a 2012 release. What have you done since then, or are you in the process of writing a book?
Well, I've been at the beach, honestly, and I've just been taking in some sun.
Why not?
Well, we all should. I think that pleasure, harmony, and happiness are important too. And I think that that's an important thing. Although I in truth I cannot tell you I've really taken an honest to God vacation since that book came out. but I've done a lot of traveling, and I guess that's the closest approximation. And I tend to be a busy person anyway. And that said, I am working on some books. As a matter of fact, actually, there was one more book that came out after the UFO Singularity in 2013. There was a book titled The Ghost Rockets, which came out, and that looks at what are apparently a variety of drone technology that I think exist and are often reported as UFOs. There was a case that was reported, two incidents dating back to 2013 that are being investigated by Paul Dean and Keith Basterfield, a brilliant couple of Australian UFO researchers right now, who have said it looks like somebody's launching rockets at aircraft down here in Australia, and this is a real problem. And I don't know if they know that I've written a book that's all about that phenomenon, that looks at literally the entire world in terms of the number of instances where that's happened, beginning in, I think, the summer of 1946 over Sweden and other parts of Scandinavia, which what was traditionally called ghost rockets, and leading up to the present day with the Aviation Safety Reporting System, which is maintained by NASA here in the United States, but it catalogs utilizing an anonymous interface to protect against litigation and things like this. It documents an awful lot of strange things, and among them I found maybe a dozen reports or so that involve what pilots claim to look like missiles or torpedoes flying dangerously close to their aircraft. So that's one book that I've done since the UFO Singularity, and there are a number of others that I'll be hoping to put out hopefully by this year, as well as a nice trip over to the Emerald Isle in June, where I'll be joining Scotty Roberts, John Ward, my friend Barry Fitzgerald, who sent me an email in the middle of the night about Ben Bulben Mountain, and of course James Swagger. And we're going to be taking a trip across Ireland to different megalithic sites in June, so that's something really to look forward to, I think, too.
You must be psychic, because Beth asked me to ask you about that.
Yes, I am psychic, Beth.
Okay, Andy's just asked, were you referring to the video footage showing apparent rockets fired at a UFO which appeared to be launched from Australia? I'm assuming you was on about that one, Andy?
Yeah, so I'm trying to get a word in it. It's like, whoa. But yes, that was I saw some years ago that apparently the rockets appeared to be being launched on site in Australia. I don't know if Mike has ever seen that video footage at all.
That's interesting. I don't recall having seen footage, but I presume this may be the same case that Basterfield and Dean were talking about, or at very least one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is? Okay.
Okay. Now, Micah, tonight's show was primarily to obviously get an introductory to yourself to some of our viewers, and also find out a bit more about you. And I hope that we've done that. And also, maybe we could get you on the show again and talk about something else in the future, whatever you have coming up. And maybe how your how your tour went in Ireland or something. But it'd be great to
anytime.
have you back on the show.
Well, absolutely. I would absolutely love to do that anytime. If I'm ever going to be in the UK and I can give you advance notice, I'll let you know. I've got a lot of friends, including Beth over there, and a lot of them. Lee is another who, they've said, if you're over here, mate, let's catch up, let's have a pint, and let's sit down. And so I've got so many friends. Really, if I were to go and visit every one of them, I'd have to spend a few years in the UK. Who knows? Maybe I'll just do that.
You never know. So, what's your website?
The website to find me, there are two. There's my primary site, which is the Gralien Report. It's GRALIEN report.com. Beth is a regular listener, of course, and she would tell you, just like I'm going to, that everybody needs to listen to that show because, all the kind of things we've been talking about here, we talk about on that show. This past week, we did ghosts. We did a good old-fashioned, we turned out all the lights in the studio here, and we lit candles, and my two co-hosts, Caleb and Chris, and I, we told ghost stories, and we went all the way back to the days of antiquity to do that. So that's the podcast. We don't just talk about ghosts. I mean, we talk about a lot of science, skepticism. We talk about UFOs, cryptozoology. We talk about anything, really. Anything and everything's on the table, and it's a good time. My other website is micahhanks.com. Pretty simple to remember my name, and it's got articles and other news and things like that. But if people like the shows and the podcasts, again, I'd mentioned earlier there was the Middle Theory show. MiddleTheory.com is the site for that, and you can download all the podcasts that I produce on iTunes.
Okay, and Dave Lloyd's just put up there. If you YouTube UFO disarm rockets, you'll find that footage. And where can we get your books if we need to?
Those are both available, actually. Those books are available at both of my websites, I should say.
Okay.
And you can find them on Amazon.com too.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Micah. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Absolutely.
And as I say, don't be a stranger.
Well, it'd be my delight to come back anytime. And Steve, Andy, Suzanne, all of you guys, thank you for having me on. Good to be here with you, and I'll be happy to support you guys however I can. Keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Well, that was Micah Hanks. Very good interview there. Perfect host. Perfect host. Well, he is a host. Perfect guest. So I'm assuming I've cut him off.
Yeah, I just found it weird that Andy couldn't get in.
Andy, are you still with us?
Oh, I'm here. I'm anyway, yes.
Right, okay. So I see he's gone now.
Yeah, I just found it weird that Andy couldn't get in.
Well, I was looking on Facebook for him to say something, and obviously he didn't. So I didn't think he was ready.
Things I wanted to come in and speak about, but he was going very, very fast and moving topic very quickly, to the point that when I'm trying to get in, it was way beyond what.
Well, we covered quite a bit of conversation there, didn't we?
I'll be honest with you, there were a lot of things I'd like to have challenged and discussed in more detail with him, but he just went past. There was a point where he clearly did seem to be saying that the building blocks of life originated from space. Yes, I've heard that theory before. What's his take on it? Why does he think there's a possibility that that's true? What research has he done in that area? I'm interested to hear, but it was just, I think, I'm going to move on to the next bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it was a fabulous guest. I certainly agree with a lot of his earlier points he was making. We take too much on board as being definitely the case about things. We need to investigate further, not draw conclusions, as we've been talking about during the week about phenomenology, etc.
Well, if the Big Bang actually happened, then it's the building blocks have to have come from space.
Well, it's a different matter slightly there, because we're talking about building blocks of life on Earth. But is it that there are sufficient amino acids present in our primordial swamp, primordial soup, that can then generate life as we are? I mean, there is theories saying that yes, it's had to be something from outer space. Others said no, the standard theory is the primordial soup is present here. It takes something like an electrical bolt from something like a thunderstorm to actually spark the life into it to begin the replication process. That's the standard story of the origins of life on Earth, is from that way. Most scientists would say that's the cause. Some have said it may have been a meteor-like crash that's caused an atmospheric change that then led to sparking life developing. But the idea that the foundation building blocks of life have come from outer space is a theory that's out there, certainly, but it's by no means the accepted theory of the cause of life on Earth. So I'd like to talk a bit more about that one, really. I'm still not entirely clear what UFO Singularity is actually about. I mean, we talked previously again about the notion of visitors coming from...
You'll have to download it, Andy.
Sorry?
You can have to download a PDF. It's out there somewhere.
Absolutely, I'll definitely have to look. And certainly the idea we talked before about moving forward and backwards through time. Yes, I agree that we have a certain conception of time linearity based on our understanding of time, and it might not be that that is what time actually is, just our understanding of it. But even on that basis of the idea of something from the future coming into the past has the problem of duplicating energy, which we talked about previously. And if future travel from the past were possible, we'd have ample evidence everywhere because it would be going on all the time. So again, I have a problem with that. I'd like to talk more about that. But
Beth just said that the amino acids have been found in space. Some of our building blocks here on Earth.
Well, I don't know. Are they? You say that. Where have they been found?
I don't know.
I don't know. Just Beth said, but she's saying you should read the book.
I will do, but I wanted to get a summary really from Micah himself as to what it was actually about.
So, like I said, read it!
Didn't really give me that. I just wanted to. So there are lots of things I wanted to tackle him on. Not tackle him, but just sort of discuss in a little more detail. But I think he just moved incredibly fast. You can tell he's very much a very experienced.
Well, he runs his own radio show, so.
Yeah, he's very good at that. He knows exactly what he's doing.
He's very good at that.
He is an excellent speaker.
And it was just to get to know him today, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So when he's available, we can get him back to talk about specific subjects.
Yes, we can. So,
that's
getting to know you time. Well, I just want to say the KTPF Community Talk Show is supported by Phenomena Magazine and Beyond Parazine, which is available online now. If you like what you're listening to, then don't forget to follow us via Facebook or Twitter. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for our weekly radio shows. When we have guests on, UK listeners can call in to 0844 414 3982. Or you can Skype in and speak directly to our guest by adding the KTPF Paranormal Show. So remember, you can do that. So if you ever want to Skype, yes or no? So if you ever want to Skype anything, then and talk to our guest, then fair enough. What we're going to do, Andy, now is we're going to let Steve finish the observations, and then I'll go into the paranormal events, and then we'll get you on to do your news.
Yeah, and Beth put a link on there for the Amazon for the book.
Yes.
Yes, I've had a quick click onto it. So I've spent a bit of time this afternoon getting to know Micah's ideas. And I like a lot of it, but there's things I wanted to talk to him about, but unfortunately he moves so fast you didn't even get a chance. But
never mind. Okay, so what's the first one then? Oh, the next one then, Steve.
The next one is
Observation 6.
Is about a piece of equipment.
And you're putting it into
where I was before. Onto the KTPF page.
I like the initiative there, that they're listening via Ustream and doing the old chat room via the normal live stream. Yes, very initiative.
Works perfect. Well, yeah.
Works perfect.
Just goes to show our listeners and people in the chat room got a bit of nous about them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, here we go. Pocket-sized ghost detector takes the hard work out of hunting the undead. New all-in-one ghost detector. You repeated that again, thank you very much. For £135, the Ghost Arc simultaneously scans radio frequencies for dead man's voices and records nearby spectres with 2 microphones. Hopefully it also monitors for the sudden drop in temperatures and records everything so investigators can present their findings later. It even contains a white noise generator that might bolster the spirit's strength through boast. Creator Massimo Rossi has said, I don't know why he said it that way, but there you go. Previously, ghost hunters often carried FM radios known as Ghost Box to listen for radio transmissions from the undead, but the Ghost Arc does everything in one affordable box. At £135, you need to be a fair bit of change in your pocket, wouldn't you? Because you're not these days anyway. You couldn't do that. And here is my last one, and I wanted to do this one because it connects something with what Andy was talking about there. So I just put that link in there for you to put up for everybody on the old Twitter.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Is your future already decided?
Oh,
New theory of time suggests that the past, present, and future coexist in the universe. The old adage that time is like a river suggests that we move through it like a ship sailing on the water may be wrong. The new theory claims that time does not move forward, but rather everything in the same time at every present. According to the theory, if we were to look down upon the universe, we would see time spread out in all directions, just as we see space at the moment. The intriguing theory was put forward by Dr. Bradford Scow, an associate professor of philosophy at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. His new book, Objective Becoming, he examines some of the theories that have been postulated to explain time. When you ask people, tell me about the passage of time, they usually make a metaphor, he said. They say time flows like a river, or we move through time like a ship sailing through the sea. Another theory states that the present is a spotlight that moves from the past to the future, with us being located in the spotlight as it moves forward. Dr. Scow, however, said he wouldn't want to believe that unless he saw a good argument for it. Rather, he favours a theory known as the block universe, which states that past, present, and future already exist. Dr. Scow said he does not think events sail past us and vanish forever. Instead, they exist in different parts of space and time. The block universe theory says you spread out in time something like the way you're spread out in space, Dr. Scow said. We're not located in a single time. Instead, he says we are temporarily scattered condition. He asserts that our passage through space-time is not like a spot and expresses you had yesterday, last week, or even years ago are all real. But he says time travel between the different times is not possible as we are now in a different part of space-time. His theory follows another postulated by scientists back in December. They proposed that the moment of the Big Bang, a mirror universe to our own was created that moves in the opposite direction through time. Intelligent beings in each one would perceive the other as moving backward through time. Radically theory was proposed by Dr. Julian Barber of College Farm in the UK, Dr. Tim Kozlowski of the University of New Brunswick in Canada, and Dr. Flavia Mercati of the Premier Institute for Theoretical Physics, also in Canada. The research attempts to answer the question that remained about the arrow of time, which is the concept that time is symmetric and everything moves forward.
That's long.
That was it. That was time, but it's. I'm not sure what to make of that.
No. Do you have any idea what to make of that, Andy?
yes, it's interesting in theory. It's actually one I've read before, but I'm still very much the lineality of the universe.
Well, can you put it in English for us?
That the only thing that really exists is this particular moment we're in right this second, and that's eternally now. That the future is a concept of the human mind, the idea that there is a future ahead of us, and the concept of the past having already gone by is something that's human related. You can't ask the average animal. You ask the average animal, they live in the now, and that's all that exists as far as they're concerned. We have a concept of memory and ability to remember things, and as I know, my work as a therapist, you can take someone back to an earlier point in their life, and it will be as if they're actually in that moment, but they're not. They're still here. They've just activated the neural pathway to that memory so precisely, so powerfully that it will feel as if it's real. But I am a believer that we are living in a reality that is constantly now and nothing other than now, and it's just the way our brains work.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Jamie's just said that time travel may be problematic from a physical point of view, but in consciousness, it's much easier to perform.
I absolutely agree with him there. I think with the the problematic moving physically through time is because we have the one energy field. That's a fundamental physics, that everything is just the one energy field, that matter itself is just a manifestation of condensed energy. That if you take a person out of one part of space time here now, move them into the past, they're going to be both in the here and now and in the past, so that you're duplicating. That will always create a problem because you have literally too much energy. It's like having a glass of water completely filled with water to the total brim, and then somehow taking more of the water out of the middle of the glass and putting it back in again, but still having the same water in that was in the first place. Even trying to think of a thought experiment around that is confusing. But future travel is you're taking yourself out of the present and projecting into a future point. So it's the same you, because you're now out of the actual time, space-time continuum, if you like.
Yep, Jamie, who by the way was our guest last week,
Yes.
and it says, Andy, this moment we're in that is extremely now contains all possibilities, past, present, and future, so there is no contradiction from a non-dual point of view.
Only that all that exists is the present. The future and past are concepts that we as humans understand. There is only the actual now that is a reality, and that's a never flowing now. There isn't even a moment of now. As soon as you say now, the now's already gone. It is a constant flowing of this very moment.
Okay, well, just before we go into the paranormal events, I want to give my Tuppen'th.
No, I'll do that.
I'm going to have Sue's Tuppen'th this week. Okay.
What are you giving Tuppen'th on?
Right, uncovering devil worshippers in the UK at Satan's Derbyshire HQ. The latest census reveals 17 devil worshippers living in Bolsover, but what is it about this town that attracts fans of Lucifer? Don't be fooled by the quaint antique shops. Regard the cosy tea rooms with a suspicious eye. It may look like a picture postcard of rural England, but Bolsover in Derbyshire hides a dark secret, according to the Daily Mirror on the 4th of February. In a town with a population of 75,866, no less than 17 said they were Satanists on the most recent census. That is the highest concentration of declared devil worshippers anywhere in Britain. And it's not the first time this area has been linked with the devil. 12 years ago, there were fears of sinister forces at work in Derbyshire as a spate of horses were attacked. A spate of attacks on horses. And the huge chasm of Eldon Hole, one of the wonders of the Peak District, is said to be a bottomless refuge for Old Nick himself. So what is it about this sleepy town nestled in a glorious countryside that attracts links with the devil? Well, Bernard Hay, secretary of Bolsover Civic Society, finds the idea of his hometown being a hotbed of devil worship somewhat hilarious. It must be a joke, he said. I think people might have put that on their census form out of frustration with the government or for a laugh. Derbyshire MP Dennis Skinner, the so-called beast of Bolsover, has his own explanation for the census. He believes devil worship is a front for an activity he considered far more evil: voting Conservatives. But the Church of Satan has slammed the results, which claims the area was a hotbed for the religion. They blame pranksters for lying on their census forms because they think it is funny. Priestess Serena Malone, administrator for the Devil of Satan, said, "We tend to think someone is playing a prank here. While we have many members throughout the UK, that area does not have any exceptional concentration of our adherents." The Church of Satan said it does not give out statistics on where its members are based because many bigoted people still see us as some form of threat. The organisation was established in San Francisco in 1966 and says its members are atheists and do not worship the devil. But Satanism is a broad term, and many other people may identify themselves with the religion. Derbyshire police insist that they are not plagued with 666 related 999 calls.
I'm actually glad you said that last bit, because I was of the opinion that Satanism is not about devil worship. As I'm sure Andy will be able to enlighten us a bit more.
Well, that was my two pence.
Just jump one important, very important thing that you said there, Sue, which I know it's in the article, just looked at, which is rather annoying, is Satanists should not go around mutilating animals. There's
No.
an article linked Satanists to horse mutilation, I think it was.
Yes.
That I find is ridiculous. It's slightly offensive. It's offensive to Satanists, certainly. No, most Satanist churches are far more interested in the reverse of the Ten Commandments, ones they don't particularly like the fidelity, etc. They're into having a good time and worshipping strength and power is how they see it, rather than worshipping weakness, which is how they view Christianity. But I mean, there are lots of different churches of Satan. This is the Church of Rational Satanism, whatever the hell that means. I must admit, the original Church of Satan started in America in the 1960s. But it's interesting that people probably do put that down more of a laugh than take it seriously. But there are certainly people who take Satanism very seriously as a religious movement that worships power and strength and positivity, all the things that Christianity teaches us to not have. You know, it teaches us to be sort of rather meek and humble and that sort of thing. And they're saying no to that, basically.
Viscount said it said that Jacob's Ladder is somewhere in the Peak District. Well, I've just Googled it for you, and it says that it's one of the best walks on the Peak District near Edale and Chesterfield in Derbyshire. Jacob's Ladder is the start of the Pennine Way. So there you go, Viscount. That's where it is. So you are right, it is in the Peak District. So, but that was Suzanne's two penny. I have to have my two pence now and again.
Yeah, you go for it.
Right, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do the paranormal events for the weeks coming, and then we're going to have Andy doing his little bit. Okay, Andy? So we'll see you in a moment.
Bye-bye.
Fed up of wading through the activities and events that other advertisers include? Find just what you're looking for at paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. Okay, well, first up, don't forget Tony Stockwell. It's still doing his tour throughout the UK, and for more details, you can check his website. On the 14th of February, the Spode Factory, Stoke, will be visited by the UK Shadow Seekers Paranormal. On the 27th of February, the SS Normandic Ghost Hunt is with NIPRA in Belfast. And on the 28th of February, there is a taster session on Pendle Hill with Into the Night Paranormal. And also on the 28th, Trident Paranormal will be visiting Chambercombe Manor in North Devon. And every Friday, there is a mediumship night at East Angels on Lunsey Road, Basildon. For more details on these and other events, visit paranormaleventsforyou.com. Paranormaleventsforyou.com also offers banner advertising for only £10 per year. See our website for more details. Paranormaleventsforyou.com, your one-stop paranormal directory. Yeah, well, you're listening to the KTPF Community Talk Show live on www.ktpf.co.uk from Manchester, England, and all across the internet and the world, online, and across the world.
Well, across the universe.
Oh, across the universe. Yeah, we can do that, can't we? Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand you over to Andy, and he's going to tell you what he's found. Over to you.
Okay, well, given our discussion briefly on time there, this is one I was going to talk about later on, but I'll move this up to the first one. I think this is quite fascinating. Not necessarily paranormal or UFO based, but experts are baffled by the source of one man's ongoing 8-year Groundhog Day deja vu loop. It's rather fascinating. It's more of a psychological issue that sometimes is caused by frontal lobe epilepsy, but this guy from the report has had no such problems. I'll just quickly read this to you. Doctors and neurologists are completely baffled by a 23-year-old British man's ongoing battle with chronic Groundhog Day phenomenon. that finds him stuck in a debilitating deja vu time loop that first began 8 years ago. The man told doctors that he was trapped in a time loop and felt like he was reliving the past moment by moment. He can no longer watch television, listen to the radio, read books or magazines because it feels like all the material is being sourced from his memories, resulting in what he can only describe as a painful, Truman-like show anxiety. What the experts mystify the most is the fact that most extreme and intense cases of deja vu are only found in people who have seizures in the temporal lobe epilepsy. Incidentally, that's one of the first things that's usually looked at if someone complains of having hallucinations or feelings of paranoia. It's discovered that they have temporal lobe epilepsy. But the patient's brain scans, however, are crystal clear and show zero signs of damage, seizures, or any neurological conditions whatsoever. His memory also passed all tests and showed no problems. The young man is therefore the world's first recorded case of medical history of what's being called psychogenic deja vu, or which is deja vu triggered by anxiety rather than a neurological condition. So I thought it was rather fascinating. Details of the strange case are first published in the Journal of Medical Case Reports in December 2014. Dr. Christine Wells, a psychology expert from Sheffield Hallam University and author of the report, writes, rather than simply the unsettling feeling of familiarity, which is normally associated with deja vu, our subject is complaining that he feels that he's actually reliving previous experiences from memory, not just finding them familiar. In most cases like this occur as a side effect of epilepsy, we just said, or dementia. However, in this instance, it appears as though the episodes of deja vu could be linked to anxiety caused by a mistimed neurological firing of the brain. So what causes more deja vu turns and brings about more anxiety. So he's essentially just saying the whole thing's looping around itself, that the more anxious he's getting, the more strange firing of the brain's occurring, the more deja vu he seems to be experiencing. I thought it was rather fascinating. Yes, and just going back to the very end of it, because there's a comment from a guy whose name I always trouble pronouncing, Michael Kaku. The phenomenon of deja vu is theorized as a result of a disruption in the space-time continuum, hence what we were talking about. Renowned theoretical physicist Dr. Michael Kale explains that the first two videos below, with what videos another time, but basically he's saying that it could be that it's actually not deja vu, that he really is experiencing a fracture in time and space. So there you go. What do you think of that, guys?
That's that could lead you to commit bleeding suicide, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's rather frightening to find yourself waking. I mean, it depends. If it's a good day, you wouldn't mind so much. But no, it's not so much deja vu as in he simply feels everything he's experiencing is him. It's coming from himself. It's like paranoid schizophrenia in that respect, of the sense of being watched and observed and recording your movements. This is like a very, very extreme form of that. So, that was my first little report. This is my second, which I thought was rather interesting too. This is more UFO based. Which is UFO mystery as miners unearth ancient flying saucer. The saucer was claimed from outer space. Do these intriguing images show a UFO that fell to planet Earth from outer space thousands of years ago, embedded itself deep in the ground? Look at the pictures, they look rather strange. The bizarre flying saucer-shaped object was dug up during excavation work by a coal mining company in Siberia's region in Russia. Archaeologists were called to examine the quotation craft, which excavators believed to be a man-made object, and describing it as a mystery. However, skywatchers are convinced it fell from space. The unusual object is almost perfectly circular, with a diameter of around 1.2 meters, weighing roughly 440 pounds, that's 31 stone. Excavator Boris Gaskov, 40, found the object, said, I have to say it wasn't hard to see because it was really distinctive and large. When you see the photographs, you would think, what the bleeding is that? I've never seen anything like this object. It's obviously man-made. Here, but what's it doing here in the middle of nowhere? It's a real mystery. His colleague, Arthur Prentyakov, 38, said, we were actually two similar objects, but the first one broke as it was being pulled out of the ground by the excavator bucket. We thought we saw something, sure, because it broke into pieces, but when the second one appeared, we stopped work and carefully removed it from the bucket. And I'm not going to try and say the name of the mining company, Kuzbaz mining company, which owns the object, said it had been pulled from the ground at a depth of 40 meters. Given that it was embedded so deep underground, it had to be older than mammoth bones, which were discovered in an area of 25 meters. Scientists declined to comment further while the investigation is ongoing, but web users have their own ideas. Someone who's 20 years old commented, it doesn't look man-made to me. Why on earth would a human create such a weird object and bury it so deeply? I think it must have come from outer space. So what do you think of that one, guys?
It's funny that it resembles what we would normally call a flying saucer.
Indeed.
Isn't it? It's very flying saucer. Very much looks like the flying saucers that we expect to come from the stars.
The only thought that crossed my mind was that it looks like it may have been formed by either water movement around it or possibly wind, as you see in some of the sort of rocky outcrops you might see in North America in the desert, that they kind of almost like they're carved, the wind has been on them. But this thing was underground, so it would have to have been above ground for a very, very long time to form, to then to go underground. So no, I think it's a bit of a mystery, that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is my next little story, which I thought was rather fascinating, which I'm a little surprised, Steve, you didn't pick up on this one yourself. I thought this would have been up your sort of street. Luke Rollman, the boy 5, thinks he was a woman who died in a house fire in a previous life. Luke Rollman's mum, Erica, claims he's convinced that he was reincarnated and was once a woman called Pam, who left from a burning fire in 1993. Mystery surrounds the 5-year-old boy whose mum claims he is convinced he was a 30-year-old woman who died in a house fire in a previous life. They're saying the same thing twice here. Bit annoying.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
They do that a lot. It's to get you with something, then they take it out of a paragraph.
Yes, which is rather irritating. I did read it. I must not read that twice. I want to read it twice. Anyway, Erica Rollman said her son Luke thought he was once a real person called Pam, a 30-year-old who left from the burning field in 93. Says it 3 times now. He says he recollects being reincarnated, reportedly recalls being named by his parents. Erica told Fox 8 radio station that he made the references to the woman from the age of 2. She's interesting. How would a kid know to invent the name of that at 2? But she said he would comment continually about his female alter ego, the Daily Mail of Australia reports. Erica said the boy whose recollections have since stopped would say, when I was a girl, I had black hair, or I used to have earrings like that when I was a girl. She said that when Luke was questioned about Pam, he said he remembered the process of reincarnation, which was reportedly pushed back down to Earth as a newborn baby. Erica said the boy claimed he used to be Pam, but I died when I went up to heaven and saw God, and to push me back down when I woke up, I was a baby and you named me Luke. She said she researched the boy's story and believed it references of being made to a real woman who died in a house fire in 1993. I mean, that's what I found intriguing. Why does she think that? From what the child has said there, there's really not a lot to give you any idea about who it might have been. But Erica, the mother, seems to think she's found the old news story with a woman called Pamela Robinson who died when the Paxton Hotel in Chicago caught fire in 93. So there you go. It's intriguing that the child has got any kind of sense of this deja vu reincarnation anyway. Where does the child get that idea from? So I thought that was quite a fascinating one.
Yeah.
Any opinions, guys?
I mean, you do hear stories like of it every so often that kids come up and say, "You're not my mum," kind of thing, because they remember something else.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, probably the most famous case that I know was the other way around. Was the woman in Ireland who had this conviction, or woman in England rather, who had this conviction that she was the mother of a group of young Irish men, mainly, who'd lived in this particular village in a particular house, and everything she said turned out to be true, even though she supposedly never knew it. And she went there and found the family, the guys who are now, at this point, old men, and they all said, yeah, you're just like our mother. You sound like her, you look like her, there's a feel of you that's like her. So that was a similar kind of example, but that one I thought was quite fascinating. Where are we going next? Yes, someone just saying it looks like the last UFO thing. It's like a big clay pigeon. It does rather, doesn't it? And so I hope no one does hit it with a hammer. It would be a shame.
Yeah, Beth was saying it looks like we want to make tortillas
yes.
laid out on the couch.
Absolutely.
Oh dear.
Just we'll try and keep an eye on for the future and see where it actually goes. So that one is actually really quite fascinating. What on earth that thing is? If hopefully we hear some more about it later. Anyway, here's my next one, coming a little closer to home.
Okay.
We go north into Scotland. UFO spotted over Loch Lomond. Now the footage itself is about 15 minutes long, and I've watched all of it. It is quite interesting. There's a little bright light that is moving quite slowly. So I thought at first perhaps it was just a star, but it is actually moving, albeit quite slowly. I'll read the article. An amateur cameraman believes he may have captured an alien spaceship flying over Loch Lomond. The video, shot on Sunday evening, that's Sunday just gone, when we were on live on air, shows a bright object which appears to hover above Loch Lomond area. The footage was sparked a debate amongst UFO enthusiasts across the world, with many believing that the video shows the planet Venus. Meanwhile, the others convinced it shows an alien ship. Police Scotland and Coast Guard say that no recorded aircraft was in the area at the time when Tom Hall of Loch Lomond, in the wherever it is, who shot the video from his phone, has explained why he's convinced it's a UFO. In his notes alongside the video, Hall said it's definitely not a Chinese lantern, too large, too bright, too long in the sky. Aircraft, no flight path, or too low and too slow, or helicopter. Again, usually get lots of flashing lights from helicopters, and they're usually pretty bloody noisy. So it was silent. The video lasts for 15 minutes and has raised plenty of questions. Well, what do you think? Have a look at this stuff. I've watched the whole 15 minutes of it. I think it's not a planet because it is definitely moving too quickly. Because you can tell he's static, but the light's moving through the trees. So it is something moving slowly. Now, I think it's probably more up Jamie's street. If you're still listening, Jamie, it's up you have having a little look at this light because it's not dissimilar to some of the video footage you've shown us. So, Jamie, if you're listening, have a look at this. But what do you think, guys?
Two things. One, excuse me, Tom Hall, he comes from King Lockhart in Sussex. I'll say that for you. Why do they assume it's alien?
Indeed.
I mean, make the automatic discussion that it's an alien spaceship. It could. I haven't sat and watched it because you said it's 15 minutes long. So, but.
It is anomalous.
Why would it be? Why would it even need to be from outer space?
Well, see, this is one of the problems. When people speak of UFO, the automatic assumption is we mean alien spaceship from other planets. But you take the literal definition of the term UFO, unidentified. It isn't identified. It's flying and it's an object. So it is a UFO in that respect. But what it could be, don't know. Middle of mystery. You don't necessarily have to say A, it's a planet. B, it's a UFO spaceship, alien landing, taking off, flying away, whatever. It is a thing.
Yeah.
So yes, Beth agrees as well. It is a thing. It's an anomalous object in the sky which doesn't fit in with the known criteria for things that fly in the air. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, it's my next one. Boing. Rather interesting. I won't even read it until it appears on screen because I think it's quite fascinating. The window's not being on. Hold on 2 seconds. Sorry.
We're off to Roswell.
Is this new footage from Roswell? Video uncovered by UFO magazine claims proof there were aliens in Area 51. The footage is in fact from the UFO 2006 alien autopsy film starring Anton Deck.
Yay!
Yes, I remember I saw the film when it was out originally. It was rather crap, actually, basically. But at the very end, they get sent the tape that they're supposed to, because they're basically supposed to have the real tape. It gets damaged and they have to fake it. But at the very end of the film, the video gets delivered back to them, repaired basically. And all you see at the very end of the film is this little bit of video sequence, which looks quite realistic and quite believable video footage that might be filmed at the time. But this magazine, unfortunately, seems to have taken the whole thing way too seriously. I think they've found genuine footage. So it's now been debunked. So the new Roswell footage has emerged, which claims to show the body of an alien being handled by American soldiers during the 1940s. New Zealand-based magazine Uncensored has done a frame-by-frame analysis and claims it proves there were aliens in Area 51. But Philip Mantle, the UFO expert who was involved in the release of the original Roswell film, says this latest film is nothing but utter B, lots of actresses. I think we'll probably guess what the word is underneath there. It's since been apparent that the footage was taken from the film Alien Autopsy, released in 2006 of Anton Deck. According to Isaac Coy, who specialises in studying UFO film footage, the footage is the work of artist John Humphreys, who has confirmed he made the alien being. But despite this, conspiracy forums have reignited theories about aliens having visited Roswell, New Mexico, Mexico, in a secret army hangar dubbed Area 51. UFO hunters think it might be part of a disinformation project to distract us from the real evidence. Now, Nigel Watson, the author of UFO Investigations Manual, told Mail Online. And then the next picture down is a scene from the film, which is hilarious, where they're making the dummy and cutting it up, and some old woman's offering a biscuit on a plate. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I thought it was interesting how people can get caught up with sensationalism before they really do proper investigating, to the point of actually putting it in a magazine only to be made look ridiculously silly because it isn't. It's obviously from a film. So, what do you think of that one, guys?
Is that the one I sent you? Because I didn't actually look at it.
I think it was actually, yeah. I must admit.
Yeah, there was a gentleman who's claiming he has pictures.
Yes, that was it. No, this was I was trying to find your one. I lost it this afternoon, and I thought I've just put in random UFO Roswell, and this came up. I thought, blimey, this is a good one. Okay, this is my and finally. Do we have video footage of a weird UFO, or is this the Slender Man himself in mid-flight? Perhaps he can actually fly. Those who tune in know we've talked about the Slender Man before, and I have certain issues with the whole idea. But have a look at this video footage and tell me what you think. Weird UFO in Ukraine. Look at that. Is that the Slender Man flying?
Sounds like a balloon.
Yeah, video of the Ukraine. I think it was actually a little while ago, back in 2009, but I was doing some other research and I came across this. Apparently it is actually a balloon that's escaped, but it does look rather strange. And I thought its long, thin body with maybe arms reaching out is the Slender Man learning to fly. You never know. Or is it the strange light that appears to be to the side of the camera?
Especially with that light right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you. I'm sure somebody would have thought it as being a UFO or something.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's had 17,000 hits on it. So people will probably be saying, but a lot of them are saying, yeah, it's a balloon. It's a balloon. Yeah, it's a balloon floating in the breeze. Yeah, but it's as I say, it's just a Slender Man flying. There we go. So that's it from me today, folks. That's my little collection of stories.
Thank you, Andy.
And yes, Beth said that my one might have been on the slides, and yeah, I think it was the slides.
Yes, the slide could be down. Yeah, that's the one.
So, but it's not been a bad show tonight, actually. Good old Micah came on, and
it's been cool.
It was good guest. God, probably is a good host as well. So, he was a good guest, and I thought I'd give a shout out to Beth. Apparently, I made her blush. So,
well, between the two of you did.
Yeah. So I thought I'd give her a bit of a shout out, considering she did ask me to get him on the show. So thank you for the recommendation, Beth. And don't forget that we do take recommendations for the show, because this is your show as well. So if you'd like us to have a guest on, then we will endeavour to get them on the show, like we did with Micah. And we do have others in the pipeline that we're trying to get on and waiting for replies from as well, including Mr. Stephen Greer. I don't know whether we'll get him on or not, so his time is quite busy. So
Jamie, if you can give him a prompt, if you'll get him to come on.
Yes. So, well, that's about it for tonight, I'm afraid, guys. Thank you for bearing with us with the technical issue in the beginning, but we got round it. Don't forget to tune in next week when we have Anthony Peake, a writer who deals with borderline areas of human consciousness. His first book, Is There Life After Death, was published in 2006, and since then he has gone on to develop his own ideas together with exploring the latest areas of research in his field. So that's who we've got on next week. So as I said, if you would like to be on the show, or you recommend anyone, just let us know. Just email us at admin@ktpf.co.uk, and we will do what we can. Remember, this is your show too, so get involved. And as I said before, remember to follow us on Facebook or Twitter, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for our weekly radio shows if you miss them. A big shout out to all our YouTube channelers that listen in after the show, and hopefully one day you'll be live in the chat room as well. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show, and we look forward to having your company again next Sunday at 8 p.m. on www.ktpf.co.uk. Thank you for listening to the KTPF Community Talk Show, supported by Phenomena Magazine and Beyond Parazine, and sponsored by... he wasn't ready.
I wasn't. My bad. Craignos Castle, South Wales, one of the most haunted castles in Wales. For more information on ghostly and ghastly events, including fright nights, all-night investigations, and hen parties, visit www.mosthauntedcastle.com. And in my defence, I was looking at something that Ghost has sent us. Apparently, a copy of the Magna Carta has been found in the historical department of Kent County Council.
Oh, have they?
It's worth about 10 million.
Dot press.
Maidstone at that.
Maidstone?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So, I don't know.
But,
where you will find these
I was
places.
trying to get the Bitly thing up on this one, but it's not on this computer, it's on that one. So I was going to put the link up for I'll get people in the chat room to have a look at.
So,
At a point of interest. But yes.
okay. All you had to do was Google Bitly. So, so that's about it for tonight, guys. What did you think, Andy? Good show?
Yes, as I said, I liked some of the things Micah was saying I said it right the first time, was saying earlier on, but I do think he kind of went away from himself a little bit. I'd like to have asked him a few more questions about some of the specifics that he was talking about. I think we should definitely get him back on, but next time we'll narrow the criteria to something we can actually discuss in greater detail. But so he's an expert talker. I mean, he talks for a living, he talks and sings. And thank you for mentioning music there, Sue. Just when I said, don't talk about bluegrass, I hate bluegrass.
Oh, well, I thought it'd wake you up a bit.
And I've just posted it.
Oh, that's all right then. Oh, it's on Huff.
It's on Huff.
Huff Paranormal. Right, okay.
The old Huffington Post.
I just found it somewhere else, actually. Another site talking about it. I just closed the page accidentally, but talking about Magna Carta as well. The finding, so it's obviously out and about there somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Stories, I mean, not just one place.
Apparently it was belonging to the town of Sandwich.
Sandwich, that's in Kent.
It is.
So, near deal. So anyway.
Yeah, because there was recently, they brought them all the known copies together and did an exhibition of all the known copies of the Magna Carta.
Yeah, there was supposed to be 4 left, wasn't there? And now they found this one, that'll be 5.
Indeed.
Beth says you've not heard the right bluegrass.
I've had more than enough bluegrass to know that it's awful.
Now, I must admit, I love country, but I'm not a fan of bluegrass.
Right, well, anyway. So until next time, please join us next week. As I said, we do have Anthony Peake on the show, so we could do with your questions. Okay, and so until next time, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from her.
And it's good night from them.
So all that's left to say is remember to keep the paranormal friendly. Good night and God bless.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, guys.
This is where it's at.
To see in the night, to measure the spike, to see how cold it's been. I buy my kit so I won't forget the ghosties that I have seen. The Paranormal Intelligence Gathering Services Ghost Store. So visit www.the-pigs.co.uk/ghost store.